The night sky above Phoenix, Arizona glowed purple as if the world itself sensed something supernatural approaching the earth. Far beyond the city lights, in an isolated training compound surrounded by rusted iron gates and tall desert grass waving in the midnight wind, a single figure struck a heavy bag with thunderous force. Each punch shook the sand beneath his boots and rattled the walls as if the world were trembling at his presence. This was no ordinary fighter. This was a man carved out of war, discipline and destiny. This was the Undertaker, the most feared hybrid combat star the nation had ever produced, a titan who had conquered wrestling rings and boxing arenas alike. He stood nearly 7 feet tall, tattooed arms glistening with sweat, long dark hair dripping down his shoulders, his eyes burning like embers from a furnace. A man of few words but infinite power. He had built his name not from bragging or showmanship but from the silence of dominance. The Undertaker was a storm in human form, a fighter shaped by tragedy, forged in isolation and crowned by millions of fans as the symbol of unbreakable will. But the legend everyone knew today had begun many years earlier, in a tiny Texas town where dreams usually died before they even began. His childhood name had been Mark Blackwood, the youngest son of a steelworker and a nurse. His father was a giant of a man with quiet strength, and his mother was a gentle woman who believed in discipline and compassion. From the earliest age, Mark grew distant from the world around him. He rarely smiled, rarely played, rarely spoke. His brothers joked that he was born already grown, already serious, already staring into some unseen destiny. The turning point came when Mark was only 13. A fire erupted in the steel factory where his father worked. It was a tragic inferno that claimed several lives, including his father's. That night, Mark Blackwood changed forever. He stopped being a child and became a furnace of determination. He believed that strength was the only protection against fate. From then on he trained relentlessly, lifting anything he could find, running long miles under the scorching sun, punching old tires until his fists bled. Neighbors whispered that the boy was chasing ghosts, but he paid no attention. By 16 he stood taller than most men. By 18 he had the build of a warrior and the glare of a man who had stared down life and refused to kneel. His mother called him special, but Mark insisted he was only preparing for a destiny he could feel but not yet describe. It wasn't long before scouts began noticing him. First, a local boxing coach approached him at a gym where Mark was knocking down sparring partners twice his age. Then a wrestling promoter saw him at a regional event and handed him a business card. At first Mark declined both. He didn't want applause. He didn't want fame. He wanted purpose. But fate does not wait for permission. A year later, during a boxing exhibition match, Mark fought a heavyweight ranked far above his level. He wasn't supposed to win. The fight was arranged to make the other boxer look good. But Mark didn't understand the concept of losing. He stepped into the ring with quiet footsteps and devastating power. The moment the bell rang, he became a force of nature. He absorbed punches without flinching, moved with a hunter's precision and unleashed strikes that cracked through air like lightning. In the third round he knocked the heavyweight out cold with a single uppercut. The arena fell silent. The promoters were stunned. Reporters swarmed. Overnight, the legend was born. But the legend needed a name. During a meeting with a wrestling organization, the promoter observed Mark's cold, death-like calmness and said he reminded him of a man who walked between worlds, a man who seemed resurrected by will alone. That night Mark Blackwood was reborn as the Undertaker. The name spread like wildfire. Within months he became a star in the wrestling world, known for battlefield entrances, supernatural presence and unmatched dominance. His performances were not simply fights but rituals of power. Crowds grew so massive that arenas had to upgrade their security. Children painted their faces like him. Adults screamed his name. Every opponent, no matter how confident before the match, fell silent when those dark bells echoed through the arena. But what made The Undertaker truly unstoppable was his double life. Between wrestling tours, he trained as a boxer, refusing to abandon the sport that first revealed his destiny. Fans were astonished to see a wrestler with the skill, speed and strength to excel in real combat. His punches became legendary, his footwork refined, his endurance unmatched. One magazine called him the Iron Ghost because he moved like a phantom but hit like steel. He soon became the first fighter to dominate two combat worlds at the same time, a master of performance and a master of raw force. However, Even a giant has doubts in the silence of the night. Deep down, the Undertaker fought not for the cheers, not for the belts, not for the glory. He fought for a promise he made to his father's memory. He vowed he would never be weak again. He vowed he would protect the people he cared about. He vowed that no fire, no tragedy, no fate would ever break him. But destiny tested him again when he least expected it. At the peak of his career, a new threat emerged in the combat world. A monstrous fighter known only as Goliath Kane, a man with terrifying strength and a reputation for brutality. Kane had risen through the underground boxing circuits, destroying opponents with frightening ease. Rumors swirled that he fought for more than money, that he was guided by something darker. His team began calling out the Undertaker, claiming that he was the only one worthy of breaking the streak of invincibility Kane carried. Fans demanded the fight. Promoters offered insane amounts of money. But the Undertaker did not care for fame or wealth. He cared only about legacy. So he accepted. The fight was announced as the Collision of Titans. It would be held in Las Vegas, a boxing event the likes of which the world had never seen. For months the media buzzed. Analysts argued. Former champions debated who would win. Some claimed the Undertaker was reaching the end of his career. Others believed he was still the strongest man alive. But no amount of predictions could prepare the world for what happened next. Training for the fight nearly broke him. He pushed himself beyond all limits, punching steel plates, flipping tractor tires, sprinting through desert storms. Nights were spent studying Kane's footage. Days were spent perfecting his strategy. His coach warned him that he was pushing too hard, but the Undertaker's response was always the same: there is no too hard. There is only enough. The night of the fight arrived. The arena was packed, cameras flashing, fans chanting. Somewhere in the crowd, his mother watched with pride, holding the memory of her late husband close to her heart. As the Undertaker walked toward the ring, the air around him grew cold. He wore his signature black trench coat, hat tilted low over his eyes. The moment he stepped inside the ring, the crowd erupted like a volcano. Then Kane entered, massive and roaring, a brute with fists like wrecking balls. Round 1 began with raw fury. Kane attacked like a beast unleashed, throwing heavy punches that shook the ropes. The Undertaker absorbed the blows, studying his opponent with calm precision. In round 2 he began countering, slipping strikes, landing powerful shots to the body. But Kane did not fall. He fought with terrifying rage, fueled by something deeper than competition. Round after round both giants clashed like forces of nature. Blood dripped. Sweat poured, bones rattled, but the Undertaker did not break. By the 9th round, Kane was slowing. The Undertaker's endurance, sharpened by years of wrestling and boxing, remained strong. He saw the moment, the opening he had waited for. When Kane lunged forward with a desperate swing, the Undertaker stepped aside and unleashed a devastating right hook to the jaw, followed by a left cross that echoed like thunder. Kane staggered. The crowd screamed. Then the Undertaker delivered the final uppercut, a blow so powerful it became an instant moment of boxing history. Kane collapsed. The arena fell silent for 3 seconds that felt like eternity. Then the referee counted to 10. The Undertaker had won. The world erupted. That night, he became a legend carved into eternity. Not just a wrestler, not just a boxer, a symbol of willpower, discipline and destiny. A man who rose from tragedy, forged a path across 2 combat worlds and never once backed down from fate. But even after the greatest victory of his life, the Undertaker did not celebrate. He walked outside into the quiet Nevada night, looked up at the stars and whispered that he hoped his father was proud. In the darkness, with the desert wind blowing around him, he realized that his journey had never been about beating opponents. It had always been about becoming the strongest version of himself. Years passed. Titles came and went. Opponents rose and fell. The legend grew taller than any arena, larger than any championship. Fans across the world spoke his name with awe. Children pretended to be him. Fighters trained to match him. He inspired millions without speaking more than a few words. His silence was powerful. His presence was history. Eventually, when he felt his body had earned its rest, the Undertaker stepped out of the ring and out of the boxing arena. He retired not with a farewell speech but with a single nod to the world that had watched him rise. And yet the legend refused to fade. Documentaries were made. Books were written. Fans continued to chant. The world had not lost a fighter. It had gained a myth. Today, even years after retiring, people still tell the tale of The Undertaker. They tell stories of a man who walked between life and legend, a man who fought like a warrior of old, a man who carried the fire of destiny in his soul. Children still dress like him for Halloween. Fighters still watch his matches before stepping into their own battles. And somewhere in Texas, in a small town where it all began, an old Jim still keeps the first pair of gloves he ever used. The Undertaker's story is not merely a tale of wrestling and boxing. It is a story of tragedy and triumph, of pain and purpose, of a boy who lost everything and rose to become more than a champion. He became a symbol that strength is not about muscles but about heart. That power is not about size but about determination. And that legends are not born. They are earned. And so the legend of The Undertaker continues, carried by the voices of millions, echoing forever in the halls of wrestling, the rings of boxing and the hearts of fans across the world. No matter how many years pass, no matter how many new stars rise, there will always be only one man who walked through darkness and came out immortal.